Hey everyone, Zoraz here from Not Casuals. Today I have a special video for you guys where I am going to show you some insanely useful tips on how to control your army in combat, whether it's zoomed out, zoomed in, using control group, using hotkeys, and just right clicking or dragging. There's so many ways to actually move your army, and some of these will actually really change your life in the way you PvP, make you make more merit and save a lot more of your troops if you are using it correctly. Now, it is good to keep in mind that most of these tips will work only for desktop, the computer, because on mobile and on iPads, you're going to use your fingers to drag and drop. Though some of this does actually work on mobile as well, so it could be useful. But in order to get all the key bindings and all the extra stuff, really the desktop will make your gameplay way easier, and this is going to really change the way the game is played for those of you who do want to use all these key bindings. The first thing I want to talk about is going to be movement. Now, in order to move your armies, of course, there's quite a few ways. The most obvious and used way is obviously you click on the army and then you drag them. You can drag them kind of like however you want and select them, you know, however you like. This is obviously the best, most simple way, and it is the way that it does on mobile as well. Now, there's also the way if you have your mouse, you can right click, so you can see I can control my army. So basically like an RTS, you can right click around and your army will move as you are clicking. So this I find is actually a very nice way to move in general. Myself, I find that it has a lot of advantages. Now, if you play zoomed out like this, you can do the same thing, right clicking. And for example, if you want to like send one troop in a city, you can right click on the city itself and then another troop on the city right here and another troop on the city right here. Well, this is a flag actually, but you can see that like it is a way to order commands by going in cities, and by if you click, for example, on the Darkling, you know, my army will go and attack this Darkling. So right clicking does really help in terms of movement. I find much more useful than drag and dropping, because if you're always drag and dropping, you have to basically click on the unit itself or click on the frame and then drag and drop around. And I find that just right clicking, it saves you the time that you go onto the frame and then start dragging or put your mouse on the right character. If there's a lot of action stuff happening, it can be kind of awkward. So for me, right clicking is really just the best way personally. But again, there's a few ways of doing it and they all work pretty well. Now, the other thing that is really important is selecting. So how to select your units, and this is where key bindings are going to really become useful. One of the ways that most people have been using is obviously double clicking on the units in the field and you can move them around. That is obviously one way of doing it, and it is a simple way. Now, if there's a lot of stuff happening in combat, you can double click on the frames and then, you know, drag from the frames directly like this, or just drag right here, or once you've double clicked here, you can then move around however you like. And another way, of course, will be by selecting one frame at a time. This also works if you want to only select a certain unit. But for me personally, I find that there are many ways from key bindings that will really change the way you do. So if you can see, I just clicked one button on my keyboard and I've selected all the troops on the field. Now, if I go like this and I just do this, you see I've only selected these two and not this one. So this key binding lets you select all the troops that are currently in the field of vision, so what you're seeing. And then there's one where it doesn't matter where you are. See, I've selected all my troops without clicking anything. You can see my mouse in the middle. I click, unselect everything, boom, I've selected everything again. But if I, for example, just have one unit in my frame and I click, see, I'm selecting it, and then I can do this and I select them all. So these are the key bindings that are really going to change your life. For me personally, it has made a big difference. So you come here in the hotkeys and this is it. So there's select all legion and select all legions on screen. So for me, I've put this key and then Control A, select all legions. You can obviously change the key bindings to whatever you like. So for example, when you're fighting, sometimes lag happens, the screen goes like this, or you know, you unselect your unit by accident, then you need to reselect them. These are very fast ways of reacting. For example, I'm attacking here, I'm getting attacked. I press this button and then I press the D button, and instantly all my units are going back. So if I'm lagging, I'm like this, oh shit, what's happening? Control A, D. All my units are coming back. It doesn't matter. I can do Control A and S. I don't even have to look. I don't even know where my units are right now, but they all stop because S is the stop command. Control A and D, and now they're all coming back to the city. So as you can see, this has a lot of usefulness. You know, A, D, and S are the key bindings here. So S is to stop moving and D is to come back. So Control A and D can really save your life in combat many times. If you're getting your screen moved around and lagging and stuff, And another thing, of course, if you're on the mobile, well, you can double click here with your finger and then press here. Even if you're not in the screen, doesn't matter where you are, this D button is still going to be there. But obviously it's not going to be a keyboard hotkey when you're on mobile, but when you are on the desktop, this really makes a massive difference. Now, if we come back to look at the hotkeys, of course, there's a lot more hotkeys to do a lot of stuff. For example, your F keys can be selecting your legion. So you have 5 legions, F1 to F5. If you select specific legion, if you are good at using F keys, well, you know, if you want to recall a certain legion, you press F4 and then D, well, the region's going to get recalled, but none of the other legion. So you can move around like that if you're in combat. There's a lot of stuff you can do with specific legion only. And you can also have like artifact skills for the legions. And one of the things that I find really, really useful is going to be group. So for those of you who played RTS before, Control 1, Control 2, and also on, you basically are creating groups that then you can use the hotkey 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and have that group react. So as you can see right now, if I look, there's a little 1 here, there's a little 2, there's a little 3. So those are 1, 2, 3. I'm pressing on my keyboard and you can see I'm shifting between these guys. This becomes very useful when you have to have different groups. So for example, my archers have different range, and this is my freezing ring legion that I'm going to be using for a different purpose. So for example, my freezing ring legion can be control 3, my archers can be control 2, and then these guys can be control 1. So as you can see, 1, 2, and 3. So 1, I press and instantly I select everything. So this is my fighting legion when I'm using my mages. Then I need my ring to come. I can press 3 and then press this and then back on 1. Then I need to recall these because I'm fighting. This guy's still coming. I can press 3. You can see there's a lot you can do with this. If you have your armies hotkeyed, you know, again, pressing D to recall them if you're in trouble, pressing S to stop moving if something's lagging. And there's just many ways that it can save your life. But just having 1 and then right clicking around to combat, even if you're zoomed out, zoomed in, doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, it just keeps selecting them with no issues whatsoever. So I find this is a really good way of moving. I can send this guy there, I can send this guy there. Let's see, and then this guy is there. Like you can see, a lot of my units can be controlled and moved around with a very minimal amount of pressing hotkeys or moving. Like it's so much faster than clicking, dragging, clicking these. Oh shit, I selected this one. I didn't want to select this one. I have to unclick it. Oh, this one selected. Oh my god, I have to unselect this one. You know, as you can see, it gets very confusing. There's a lot of clicking happening. And then this is me in an open field. When there's lag, things get very different, of course. And when there's combat and you're getting attacked for 2 seconds too long, you'll just die. So I find that pressing hotkeys is just such a good thing. You know, you can obviously do my trick where you select only things on the screen, and then that's control 1, control 4, 5, doesn't matter what you want to put it. And then this is just, in my opinion, one of the best ways to play this game. If you're on the PC, it becomes kind of an RTS where you're controlling your army. Different units have different uses. You can put some in the cities, you know, you can have so much going on, and then it's so easy to get them out, do stuff with them instead of having to click here, and then it zooms in sometimes, and you're like, oh, dragging, and oh, where's my other army? And then you drag, oops, I went too far, up. You know, a lot of stuff happens in war, and it is sometimes very costly. So I find that these have really helped me streamline the way I play. And anytime I have lag, I have ways of recalling or stopping my army without having to click, and just simply pressing hotkeys on my keyboard. And for me, the best part is really like I can go like all the way here and like, oh, I'm lagging, my army's getting attacked. I press 1, D. I press 2, D. I press 3, D. They're all coming back. I press Control A, S. They're all stopping. So I really can do everything without having vision on them. And to me, and if you press double 1, you're back exactly where that unit is. So double 2, double 3, as you can see, it zooms you instantly if you press the hotkey twice. So these are all insanely valuable tips in my opinion, and I think a lot of people are not fully aware of all the ways you can control. Now, the best way in the game to fight currently is this kind of like zoom out. Another thing that can be useful is if you click this little button here and you hold it, you can see there's 4 different kinds of visions. So if you go like this, it's like from very far back. If you go like this, it's obviously more zoomed in. And then like this is where you can see all the resource node just before it disappears. And like this is basically the furthest vision you can be before it becomes a small little characters. And I use the mouse wheel to go back and forth between them. But this is basically the maximum vision. So when you're fighting and you want to see stuff happening, this is the best way of getting it, because sometimes when you zoom in and zoom out, you can see like, I don't know, am I zoomed out enough? If I zoom out more, I'm in this mode. If I zoom out in, I'm in this mode. But then if you see I do this, I had still a little bit of zoom out left in me. So the mouse wheel sometimes is not fully accurate. So I find that doing this vision and then zooming out just a little bit, it does offer you, you know, a very good way of fighting. And then you can just drag and drop, right click, use your army to fight. And then if you get attacked, and the nice thing too is you see the unit types that you're attacking. When you're like this, and you're dragging into a ball, you have no idea what's happening. So if we look, for example, when you're trying to fight some enemies, well, you know which ones target, you know which ones are the mages. So when you go and you scroll like this, or if, for example, you right click, there's a little like white around it that kind of appears. So like if I'm right clicking here, well, you know, my armies is coming to attack this unit specifically. If I'm right clicking here, it's going to attack this unit. So this is, you know, the ways of doing it that kind of like works the best, in my opinion, when you're fighting war in this game. Now, if you come back here, of course, there's a few more things. Like if you want to change the hotkeys for selecting group, adding groups, it's all the same. Control basically creates the group. If you press shift, it adds to the group. So for example, if this is now group 5 or group 4, and then I want to add this one, I can do shift 4. And now these two are group 4. And then if I want to do one, you know, here, if I want to add these two to group 2 instead, I press shift 2 and this shift 2, boom. Then shift 2 has added all of them together. Or I can just select them all and press control 2. Now they're all group 2. So this is a few ways of doing it. And of course, there's a few ways of clearing the hotkeys. Recalling them to your city basically clears them as well. So every time you get them out of the city again, you have to create the groups. But, you know, really just take a look at the controls here, the hotkeys. There's a lot of them that can be very useful for combat, even for zooming in, camera back, up, down, left, all this kind of stuff can really help you in combat as well if you're using the keyboard a lot. And, you know, select all legion on screen. I think those are two massive ones. And then the group ones are very, very useful. And then there's a few other ones if you are trying to, you know, cast selected legions artifact skill. Those are things that you can select yourself, as well as just casting the artifact skills of your legion is QWERT, basically QWERT. So this is you know, if you don't want to have to come and click here, or if you're not using autocast, well, this is a way to kind of like automate the autocast in a much easier way. So hopefully these tips are useful to you guys when you're playing the game, controlling things. I do recommend, for those of you who can, to play on desktop. It will make your game experience way better, and you will be able to have much more of an impact in battle. It is something that makes it much easier, in my opinion, to play the game. And on mobile, you can still come in here in the control and see there's a few things you can do, a few keybinds, a few ways of playing that will help you. Remember that double clicking here is, you know, one of the best ways to select everything you have. And if you double click in the field, it only selects the ones that are in your field of vision. So this is, you know, a few things to keep in mind when you're playing. Dragging, right clicking, there's just so many ways to play, so many styles to accommodate, but in my experience, it is really a beneficial way to play when you're using the hotkeys. Your response time and your response to lag and to errors basically is much faster, and will save your hospital hundreds of thousands of troops for your account. So hopefully these tips were useful to you guys. Let me know if you have any more tips about movement and combat that you've experienced yourself, so that I can add it in the future video if you're interested. So let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.